step forward and come into the podcast. Hi, that was my impression of Amitabh Bachchan. This is Has It Aged Well. My name is Abbas. I'm your host. With me in the studio is my co-host Urjita.
As always, but
yeah. And I had actually planned to do the intro in sign language, but I realized that the audio listeners won't be able to see it. So then what's the problem?
Yeah.
And it is a problem which we will address. That quote, that dialogue was actually from the 2000 film Black by Sanjay, Leela, Bhansali. A big film when it came out. And a film that spawned a lot of conversation. So to add one more conversation in that bouquet of conversations, we have in the studio, she's a comedian, she's a writer, she's a disability inclusion enabler. Please welcome to the studio, Sweta Mantrii.
Hello.
Hi,
Thank
Sweta.
you for having me. Thank you.
It's our pleasure.
My pleasure too.
Should I just do this whole podcast in Amitabh's voice? It's our absolute pleasure.
मैं मूवी देख चुकी हूँ 2 बार, ठीक है already research के लिए.
At this point, I would like to say, guest के सामने नहीं अब्बास, ये क्या कर रहे हो?
Sweta, you're someone who is on a trip to Bombay. You're not a Mumbaikar.
Yes.
But you were here for a series of shows.
Yeah.
So tell us what you do before we get into the movie, who you are, and what is your purpose on this podcast.
So yes, I am Sweta Mantrii. I am an MBA turned writer, turned stand-up
MBA?
comic.
I did not know that.
I am पढ़ी लिखी. Turned stand-up comic and disability inclusion enabler.
Right. Before we get into the meat of this conversation, let me just put a disclaimer out there. I'm a dumb person, okay? And this episode is going to include a lot of conversation about disability and inclusion. So there will be moments where I will mopat say something which might not be acceptable or which might be a little outdated, where very rightly Sweta will correct me and be like, you fucker, you understand this. You're not supposed to say that. So keep that in mind.
And to that, I would like to say, just like Pakistan cricket team's captain Sarfaraz, my answer also same, no difference. Exact same.
Good thing at least someone watches cricket on this podcast.
मुझे बस ये मीम की वजह से पता है, मैं कोई क्रिकेट नहीं देखती, मैं तुम लोगों में से नहीं हूँ, I'm just saying.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that this episode will not be funny.
Very funny.
We will be very funny, funniest perhaps.
Just like my stand-up career.
Yeah.
Sweta is
was
a really
joke.
funny stand-up comedian, and I would just like to add that.
Yeah. Sweta, I mean, how many times a day do you crack the stand-up comedian joke considering that you walk with crutches?
Every time someone asks me to sit down and I'm like, hey, I take my job very seriously. Kahin par bhi. The first time it happened, actually, it was on stage where, I think the audience had not come in and I was doing some mic check.
Right.
And the guy over there, they're like, madam, chair chahiye kya? No, I take my job very seriously. And I was like, अरे क्या line है? मैं सब जगह use करेगी. 4 साल से मैं यही line use कर रही हूँ.
Did the guy offering you the chair laugh?
He smiled. That is people's reaction to all of my jokes.
Right.
Like, हंसना है, भागना है, यहाँ से नहीं भागो मत. मैं नहीं भाग पाऊंगी तुम्हारे पीछे.
Yeah, okay. So you get the gist of what the vibe of this episode is going to be.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Black, Sanjay Leela Bhansali's Black. We'll talk about what Sweta feels about the movie, what me and Urjita feel. And we'll give you our takes and a lot more right on the other side of this break. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel and share this episode with someone who you think will enjoy it. We'll talk about all of that and more on the other side of this break. If you're watching this on YouTube, oops! A lot of things happening in the studio. If you're watching this on YouTube, press the like button and hit the subscribe button and share this episode with someone who you think will enjoy it. We'll see you on the other side of this break.
Hi, this is Cyrus Rogan Brocha, pyar se Rogues. I've come up with a brand new idea. It's a premium product called Club Cyrus Says. It's an offer open just for you. Let me tell you about the product. We've got exclusive Cock and Bull episodes just for you. That's right, just for you. That means others don't get to see it. Also, you get exclusive footage, extra bits, the uncut version of the interviews with celebrities. And these are huge celebrities, not small-time celebrities. Only the big guys come on the show. So you'll get the exclusive bits that nobody else gets. The extra tidbits, special stuff, uncensored stuff you don't want to put out. That's just for you. And for our audio listeners, you get special ad-free content and early access to interviews and sessions and podcasts which nobody else will get. You'll get it first. You're the first people. You're Neil Armstrong. You're Edmund Hillary. You're whoever discovered India. You're that. And by becoming an exclusive member of Club Cyrus Says, you get the power. We transfer the power to you and you become the producers and you will decide what content or what happens on that show. You are the masters and we are we can't use words like that. People who work for the masters, basically. So guys, get in. Special audio features include, I forget. I can't remember what the.
And we're back on Has It Aged Well with Urjita and Sweta. We're talking about Black from 2005. So guys, first memories of watching Black. Urjita, you were, again, I'm going to ask the question, 5, 6, 7 years old?
When did this movie come out?
It came out
I
in
forgot the year.
2005.
2005. Though I never watched this movie. I watched it.
Oh,
as-
really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So that's the thing. I don't know how. So Black was very much there in the pop culture. I don't know how I missed this movie, but maybe because I was 7, so I think that's
Right.
But it was nice to know your adult understanding as opposed to your child understanding.
Yeah, and which is why I would like to add that I don't usually cry easily. मतलब मेरे प्रॉब्लम से भी मैं नहीं रोती हूँ इतना और रो तो भी मेरे ही प्रॉब्लम्स पे रोती हूँ. आई एम थोड़ा नार्सिसिस्टिक काइंड ऑफ सैड पर्सन. सो बट नहीं, मूवीज देख के भी रोती है. ऐसे स्पेसिफिक इमोशन पे रोना आता है.
Happy to know that, Urjit.
या तो when I started Black, I knew कि ये इमोशनल होने वाली है, बट आई वाज लाइक हाँ ठीक है. मैं 6 बार रोई मूवी में.
Oh.
तूने काउंट किया?
मैं 6 बार रोई मूवी में, अच्छे से रोई, ट्रेन में रोई. आई
So-
वाज जस्ट मैन.
Urjita's rewatchability scale is 6 cries out of 10.
This movie, and after watching the movie I was like, there is no fucking way I'll be funny in this episode because this was so serious and just so beautiful. Like I had forgotten what that emotion of innocence, pure joy and just beauty, I had forgotten what that felt like after being a cynic for so many years. And it just like somewhere it rekindled all those emotions
Aw.
in my heart, and I'm like, okay, I am also a human.
Shweta, you're someone who's closer to my age.
Yes.
So I'm assuming
Yay.
that you were around when the film was about to be
Very much
released.
around,
And I was 17 years old. And I remember there was a lot of buzz around this film even before it was released. So this is the second SLB film we are covering. We covered Devdas before this. This was his follow-up to Devdas. And we'll come to that. As a disabled person who was very young at that point of time, did you feel like, were you looking forward to this film? What do you remember? What are your thoughts about this?
So I don't remember like looking forward. Like if
Right.
it were me right now, I'm like, oh, movie on disability, I have to watch it.
Before that, is it a very dick move to ask someone as a disabled person?
Not in this
It's not.
context.
Okay, cool. Sorry.
Yes,
Continue.
Fine. But it's we'll come to that also later.
Abbas has lost 500 calories just by being anxious.
As someone who breeds anxiety, I'm so happy I'm making someone anxious. Sorry. But it's
Oh yeah, 2005. Do you have memories of this film?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I was in 12th standard and I'm surprised that I watched this movie in theatre because I saw it was released in February. Which
Okay.
means it was before the
Before the
boards.
exams.
Like, my mama was so nice. Took me for a movie.
I think
So-
I also watched it in the theater, so
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. I don't.
Yeah. So, yes, my mom is, so before, like this friends group thing happened and all, I think for our generation happened like post 10th, 12th.
Yeah.
है ना? So I used to watch movies with mom and I watched like very random movies like मैं प्रेम की दीवानी हूँ,
हाय।
कहो ना प्यार
It's
है.
not
with-
random.
I'm sensing a Ritik theme here. मैं प्रेम की दीवानी हूँ,
Yes.
कहो ना प्यार है.
No, but
I am-
मैं प्रेम की दीवानी was a bad movie. But at that time
when
it
I-
wasn't random.
Yeah.
Random would be, I'll tell you, Blood Diamond.
Wow.
keep bringing-
Okay.
वो भी देखी है
Just
मैंने,
because
लेकिन-
it's Hollywood.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
1,
No,
2 का
sorry,
4.
not Blood Diamond, Blood Money.
हाँ, मैं बोल ब्लड में अच्छी मूवी है.
Yeah. Then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 ka 4. This would be random.
Did you like it when you watched it back then?
So, coming back to it, I remember watching it with my mom, and I remember giving her a side eye so many times because, of course, my condition was not as severe.
Yeah.
You know, and didn't go through the same things, obviously. But every time there was like this parent and child interaction,
right.
and the parent was like, the father was being insensitive and all. And even when the mom was being nice, and I was like, why won't you this nice? What's wrong? Like, why? You know?
And could you see some effect happening on your mother while watching this?
No, not back then for sure.
But like I feel in her defense, like Michelle's mom defense, I feel like the movie was written by a man who has never
I
been
was
a
gonna
father.
say that, हाँ.
So
it's again the glorified image of a mom, like, oh my god, so loving, unconditional, accepting.
Like at
yeah.
some point, like even as a woman, I would say, of course, like show her irritated
हाँ,
at some
हाँ,
point.
exactly,
No, how
हाँ.
could you be like so
वो
nice
कुछ
and so
ज़्यादा ही
loving?
मतलब मैया
So,
यशोदा
which
types.
I'm just trying to take your mom's side. I'm just
Thanks, Urjita.
yeah.
That's
You
I
thought
do
you
love
could.
my mom. I sent her biryani on Mother's Day.
Good.
Yes.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
From Bombay.
We should mention we are recording this a day after Mother's Day, so it
Yes.
was like yesterday she sent her biryani.
Yes.
So it's interesting. You saw the film with your mother. I saw it with my father.
Oh.
I don't know where my mother was, which she went off for a holiday or something. I don't know. But so 17-year-old, back then there was this perception, and it still exists today, I think, that if you want to give an award-worthy performance, you have to play a disabled person
Oh,
on
really?
screen. Yeah, of course.
Oh.
So back then it was like, oh, this is Rani Mukherjee's best performance.
Dude,
Huh.
I just remembered this. The moment while you were saying it, this is fucking insensitive, okay?
Okay.
So Kapil Sharma show, Sara Ali Khan. You remember this?
No, I don't know.
I don't.
You have
Like
seen
Kapil
She just
Sharma.
hawed at Kapil
Yeah,
Sharma
Kapil
show.
Sharma show.
Ah.
Of course.
Because I was like, okay, fine. So I'm so glad you guys haven't seen it. I'm about to ruin your brain. तो क्या हुआ था कि सारा अली खान, रणवीर सिंह, okay, they were there to promote some movie. I think Simba, they were there. Okay, Ranveer Singh told Sara बेटा award-winning acting करके दिखाओ, and she
What are you
went this,
saying?
and it
So for our
pissed
audio
me.
listeners, Urjita has just
Yeah.
made a weird face and banged her head on her
and
hand.
everybody laughed, and nobody felt that. And I was
Wow.
like, Ranveer Singh,
I had this
your
much
wife
respect left for
yeah,
her.
it's like your wife, she speaks about depression. She's like a mental health advocate,
Okay,
and
And
yeah.
she
how
was in the acid victim.
Yeah, Chapa, yeah.
Oh my god.
yeah, but it just pissed me off so much, and I just remembered that the moment you said it, I was
And
like,
what was Kapil Sharma's response like?
He also
was
laughed,
like,
I
was standing
guess.
ovation.
Yeah.
Okay, bhai, chalo, mujhe to dal makhni pasand hai. I don't know. He just said something Punjabi. I don't remember Kapil Sharma's response, but that was
Yeah. So I mean, it's a very big cliche, at least in Hollywood, that if you want to win an Oscar, you either play a disabled person, a homosexual, or be in a World War II movie.
Minority.
Yeah.
A World War II
basically.
movie, a
Yeah.
Jewish person who was persecuted, something like that. So back then, I remember a lot of publications were like, "This is Rani Mukherjee's best performance," and Amitabh Bachchan's greatest performance also. So I remember when I saw it in a theater as 17-year-old, ज़्यादा कुछ देखा नहीं था. So I was like, "Wow, this is great acting and all of that." Over the years, I haven't seen the film. I also, I think, yesterday saw it for the first time, beginning to end, after I saw it when it came out. And I wondered, would it be hammy? Would it be too exaggerated? Right? When I saw the film, it worked for me. But I think that the kid actress, Aisha Kapoor,
was much
I think is
better
better than Rani Mukherjee in the
For
film.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have questions about the way the teacher treats the child as a kid to get her to quote control or
Same.
behave in a way.
Yeah.
But we'll come to that. But मेरा complaint इस film से वही है, which I mentioned in the Devdas episode also. Not the biggest Sanjay Leela Bhansali fan. I get it that he's a visionary. His films look great. This film also looks beautiful. But I always find some, like, it doesn't touch me emotionally. Like, I've actually written down, I'll ask the guests if they cried in the movie. You said you cried 6 times.
It
Did
didn't
you
touch-
cry?
Of course. I thought I will not cry this time because I'm like grown and I have a different understanding of disability now. I also cried. Like,
I did not cry in the movie. And I'm the
Really?
guy who
Abbas.
cried in like chup chup ke and all. Like, I'm not a difficult
do
person.
you hate disabled people, Abbas?
No, I don't.
Of course not.
Have you watched Sita Ramam?
No, I have not watched
God.
that.
I
one.
watched
You
it
cried-
because
you
of
cried,
you.
right?
Yeah. God.
Dude, I cry Sadma that last
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you know that I cry in Sadma. I cry. It's not difficult to make me cry.
Yeah.
But I don't know, as the and
So you
I,
cry when the man is the victim?
No. Now I'm thinking of what's a female film that has made me cry.
Quickly, Barfi. Huh?
Barfi I cried. Yes,
Okay.
Barfi I
But
cried.
Barfi,
Barfi रोने वाली थी
it was
actually.
again question
Shweta cried
debatable.
like, how bad is this film?
It was again debatable because
We'll get to that. We'll
yeah,
get to that.
Fine.
So yeah, I mean, my favorite Sanjay Leela Bhansali is the film which he gets the most shit for, which is Sawariya. For some reason, I like
I
Sawariya.
haven't watched.
Oh, it's okay. You're not missing out on much. But I like the first. It's a 2-hour film, 2 hour 4 minutes, and again the first half of it, the first hour, I was really enjoying. Towards the end, I somehow just lost
You
the
lost
thread
it.
of it. But it's fairly, spoiler alert, aged well. I won't say it's
It's aged
amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah. So let's get to the actual premise of the film. It's based around a Anglo-Indian family. Do they mention where they are put up?
I think somewhere in the mountains.
Shimla.
I felt.
Exactly.
Dehradun type koi jagah mujhe.
Shimla.
That's what I felt.
Is it Shimla? It was shot in Shimla, but I don't know if they mention in the
I
film.
also
that they
read
are in.
Shimla, so again now I don't remember.
Because just like Savaria, this film is irrelevant of where it is set and what time period
What
it is set.
I tried to understand
Time
a lot.
period. Yeah.
I was like relevance hona
I
chahiye
got to
because-
know from, so the costumes are done by Sabyasachi Mukherjee. He mentioned in some interview somewhere that he was given a brief that the film is set between the 50s and 60s.
Oh.
But again, we don't get that
Yeah.
sense in any way.
And also the way everybody's dressed up even in the college. Like I tried to pay attention costumes kya hai,
That
and I'm like
scene-
still nahi samajh aa raha hai. Ye abhi bhi ho sakta hai.
Yeah.
And also like because it's Sanjay Leela Bhansali, he's tried to maintain the treatment where like even the students are wearing black in the classroom.
yeah.
And I'm like, is this like a uniform? Is it Sanjay Leela
Convent
Bhansali?
school. We just assume it's a
yeah,
convent
yeah.
school. Yeah.
What's your relationship with Bhansali? Do you like his films?
What's it? We are best. We
Is
are
it a strained relationship?
casual,
Do you get-
friends with benefits.
I mean, I could do a casting couch if he's,
Bhansali
yes,
sir.
on this point, if he's really going to have me as a disabled actor.
Yeah.
But anyways, okay.
But other films, Guzarish, Khamosh, which also
Khamosh.
include
Yeah.
disabled characters.
I don't remember watching Khamoshi
Okay.
as much. But I think Khamoshi, my treatment was quite fair and neutral, which I like. I personally like that. Again, I think in Guzarish, I think, of course, it's again like a huge debate, but I like that the treatment was not overly glorified,
Okay.
not the glorified version of disability, whereas he portrays that it's okay for someone with a disability to want to die. That's again a different argument,
Right.
but I think I don't know if it was your podcast or I read somewhere else or I saw somewhere else. I think it was a reel.
If it's intelligent, then yeah.
You went from your podcast to article to reel.
Yeah.
Go
See,
ahead.
it's my bad memory. I'm 30 plus.
Intelligent cheese होके तो हम नहीं बोल रहे.
But I think I watched parts of Pulkit's episode where you've spoken about how Gangubai is the like in Sanjay's head it's the male count of a person. And then I also read somewhere that he's a feminist because he doesn't portray a woman as a woman's enemy, and like Paro and Chandramukhi.
Yeah.
And
Despite
even
loving the same person, they
yeah.
don't hate each other.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I don't know if I wanted to believe that completely.
Okay.
Yeah.
But,
I don't think a man can be like a complete feminist at any point.
Hot take.
He can
Boom.
try. He can try to be an ally, but like
And God knows I try. Anyway.
Well done, Abbas.
Thank you.
I'll give you a standing ovation for that.
Moving on. So you, by and large, whatever you've seen of Bhansali, you've liked.
I have been very neutral towards it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same.
Khamoshi, I would just like to add that Salman Khan's career best performance.
Okay.
Khamoshi.
Really?
Too good, man. I loved the movie.
Not Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam?
No. Okay. Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam was nobody's career best performance. It was good performance.
I remember
I'd
there were
argue
these-
Aishwarya. What's a better film than Hum Dil De Chuke that Aishwarya has done?
Jodha Akbar.
Okay. To
She
each
was
their
also
own.
Dhoom 2.
I did
I know
like
many
I
people
liked
said
her
no.
in Guzarish by
Dhoom
the
2,
way.
she was really good, man.
Yeah,
I
and
don't.
she was hot.
See,
Are you like
yeah.
checking me out?
Yeah.
Hey, being hot and
Golden
acting
chance,
well.
Yeah, I
golden
know.
chance, sunehri chance.
Okay.
Who remembers the dialogues?
Yeah.
She was good in Dhoom 2. I liked her. Yeah.
So then, by the way, I should mention this. The story of this film is heavily influenced by the life of Helen Keller, who was a writer.
Yeah. And also,
And
like,
also-
so Sanjay Leela Bhansali thought of taking up this topic while researching for Khamoshi.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Because-
also
Yeah.
But do you know
then-
the reason that he states why
Because
he was
around disabled children. No, at
no?
that
So
time.
apparently he made Devdas,
Huh.
and according to him, Jaya Bachchan saw Devdas, and she told Sanjay, you're making two similar films. It's about time you attempt something completely different. So which is why he
really
from the
Pahij.
from the most expensive and opulent film he made, he came to this film where essentially he's stripping away all the colors, all the opulence, and all of that.
I would say it's still expensive, but I would
Sure.
say, I would say
Yeah.
that it's gone from being colorful
Yeah.
to being a little more minimalist and
Well,
black.
nobody's doing Mardala in this film.
Of course, yeah, acha, that way. Yeah, it's more subtle. Which
Yeah.
is
Also,
good.
I mean, the one thing he was known for till then was the
songs.
the
Yes,
great
yes,
dance sequences,
yeah.
which this film has none of.
But the theme music is like
Yeah,
it's
really
very
good.
Theme
good.
music is good, and also like the richness that you're trying to talk about. I figured that वो जब भी sculptures दिखा रहे वो room में,
Sculptures.
man, I paused
And the
every
painting.
frame.
Which
just
sculptures?
so good.
Initial when that she's just a child.
Yeah.
When Aisha is doing the acting,
Right.
and when the mom comes to know that my daughter is deaf
Right.
and blind,
Right.
and there's sculptures in the background, there's
Yeah.
paintings,
Correct,
and
yes.
then he's played with light, or
Yeah, yeah.
you know, and it's like
And
again, it's a beautiful scene.
And
yeah.
even when the shifting is happening, जो अमिताभ सब कुछ अपना एक one by
हाँ,
one shift
हाँ,
कर रहा होता है in
हाँ,
that
yeah,
room. I feel like it felt like I was watching like a graphic novel का animation.
Okay.
It was very nice.
We haven't completed the plot synopsis. So
Yeah, oh
then,
yes, sorry.
Yes.
in this Anglo-Indian family is born a girl who is blind, deaf, and mute, called Michelle.
Correction, I don't think she's mute. Like
Okay.
she is mute by the result of being blind
Deaf.
and deaf.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because then she could not hear and could not comprehend.
Okay.
But she wasn't born mute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because this is also true. I read this also somewhere. Because वो mom बोला उसने,
हाँ.
teach भी बोला, and
हाँ.
that isn't something that an actually mute person can
Okay.
say.
Okay.
So
So she's born, and it's a huge shock to the parents. They don't know how to deal with this. So we are introduced to a teacher character played by Amitabh Bachchan, who's called Devraj Sahai, and he's like one of these eccentric teachers who has very unconventional methods of teaching his children, and he's very rigid. And he also has a drinking problem. He comes to in the life of Michelle and his family, and the family is very opposed to him in the beginning, but they finally see. He uses some very harsh methods to teach her what he wants to teach, but then the parents see that it's actually showing results. And then we fast forward to a point where Michelle is grown up, and he actually wants her to study in a quote unquote normal regular college with normal students, and he finds out that she's having trouble keeping up with them because again there isn't enough material to study and read
There
in
isn't
Braille.
enough tools to support her.
Tools to support her.
Yeah.
And while all of this is happening, Devraj is also suffering from Alzheimer's. So the construct of the film is that Michelle finds him years later where he's completely forgotten everything. And she tries, now it's time for her to help her teacher like he helped her when she was a kid. And that's the entire film. And in the end, we see Michelle graduating after 40 years, I think they mentioned.
After 20. Acha, take it, sorry.
I think she mentions
At 40,
मुझे
but I don't
40
know.
साल.
40.
At
Correct,
40, I
हाँ,
don't know
हाँ.
after how many years
हाँ.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to get to that point where first of all, what did you think of the Devraj Sahai character? He's this eccentric alcoholic character. I loved his entrance scene, the one where he's the one I quoted at the beginning, come in, step into the light, where he's giving
bulb.
sign language for everything, the bulb, yeah.
Yeah.
उसका मुझे बैकग्राउंड वो बहुत ही अच्छा लगा कि where he is coming from. I feel like that was so important to set up his character. That
Because his own family member has been through that.
वो नहीं the family member इधर children वाला भी ना वो
yes,
बोलता है ना कि
yes.
इतना 3 साल पढ़ाने के बाद भी how does it feel जब भी तुम उनको बाय करते हो और
And he's
दूसरी
looking
direction में हाथ
somewhere else.
दिखाते
Yeah.
So
Was that joke funny? I thought it was a little insensitive.
It wasn't funny.
It was- no, it was
It
not a
wasn't even
joke.
insensitive. Exactly.
how was
But it was
that?
played as a laugh, right?
no it was supposed to be a serious thing. No?
I'm not sure if I can use the term sarcasm in this
Okay.
context. But yeah, it was more of a statement.
He's trying to make a point.
That's amusing.
Okay.
Like
No,
the
he was
statement.
being serious only, no, as far as I remember. He was being serious.
But the situation, if you see, the statement is serious. But the situation of someone saying bye and then the person looking somewhere else, when you
okay,
see that, it generates laughter.
Acha, okay, that way. Okay, I didn't.
It
Yeah, I was
Like-
saying
like-
of the visual.
At least for me,
Yeah.
as a disabled person, I will laugh at that. I don't know if your
I
consciousness
genuinely-
allows you
no,
to
but
laugh.
I genuinely didn't clock that. My bad. My
Okay.
bad. Yeah.
Did you like the character?
I like the character. Yeah.
काफी
mean-
pause लेके बोला.
हाँ मतलब I think they needed a harsh teacher. You know,
Why?
considering because she was borderline violent or violent, I would say. You know, and again, we're not blaming her.
Yeah.
We're blaming with the circumstances. It's the parents who didn't know how to
Tackle
deal
her.
with a child like that. But I think for someone like that, like for the child in the context, they needed a teacher who was harsh and who would be a little stern in the beginning, and then once they settled in,
Okay. So I would say harsh and stern is one thing. Scenes of slapping the child,
yes,
pushing
that
her
is,
around. Again, that's something that, if you read all these experiences of female actresses on set, they're like, oh, the director was very eccentric. So there are scenes where in the shot they would let the actor slap her, be like, अरे थप्पड़ नहीं मारेगा तो emotion कैसे आएगा?
Again, it was 2005 again.
Right.
And उस time पे there was this conversation was not there.
Right.
So like
it was
in
missing.
terms of the story, I also found that very jarring. But that is because now we are having this conversation about not
yes.
hitting children. But
Right.
हमारे बचपन में पेला है भाई.
Exactly.
ऐसा तो कुत्तों की तरह मारा है टीचर्स
मुझे
ने.
भी, by the way, ठीक है.
Or do you think it's because the kid is blind and touch is the only
No,
sensation? Okay.
no. I wouldn't say that because touch is the only medium of communication. That's
That
why
it's okay too.
it's not okay.
Don't
Anyway.
beat your children, guys. It's
But
not
the
justified.
way I look at it, like without being too judgmental or critical, like he was stepping in the shoes of a parent, and at that time it was okay for parents, like it still is in the Indian context, but like anyway, it was more accepted for parents to hit.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
And also at the same time, I feel like so I think about it from his perspective कि एक तो उसने जो काम करके दिखाया just to teaching her how to read, write and express, being like deaf and mute, deaf and blind. That itself was it's still, I know I watched the whole movie, but it seems impossible to me. How can anybody do that? This is not like an I don't know. It just feels an unachievable feat to me.
Okay.
Ki without experiencing anything, how can you just like learn how to read and write? But he managed to do that, so which is why I would not like to question his method as a viewer, but like as a former child, I feel I feel bad for her. Like मुझे भी बचपन में 4th standard में एक टीचर ने थप्पड़ मारा था, तो मेरी मम्मी ने बोला था क्या है ऐसे थोड़ी ना पढ़ाते बच्चों को.
Right.
She was right.
But then at this point, I do want to mention that like the fact that Urjita finds it amusing or just surprising. Not amusing, the wrong word, sorry. Find it surprising that a disabled person who is blind and deaf can like learn. I think
how can he teach?
How can he teach? Yeah, of course. Teach and then learn. Like there's a difference of approach on both the ends, right? Like
That
there's
we
a
see
difference
it as
in
impossible.
approach. Yeah.
Right.
That is the whole conversation about disability that needs to change. We'll of course come to it, I'm sure. But this fact that
No. As in, I didn't mean it that way. I
know,
meant that
but-
like, how did you do it? Oh wow, it seems impossible. Of course, I know he did it anyway.
No, her
and I
point
know.
is by default in our head, it's
by
like,
default, your
my
first
God,
reaction
it's so
is like,
difficult.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Where we need to be at a point where it's like, हाँ ठीक है, कर लिया, good job, you know.
Acha, okay. Oh, okay.
Basically, for us, someone making the effort is only like, whoa, you know. Whereas that should come automatically. Okay, if something is not happening by default, someone will help you do that. I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
This
Don't mean
whole
to, like-
discourse around like, oh my God, wow, what a big deal.
Right.
You know, and also I think that's also because like just as humans, we have this like as normal humans, and I hate the word normal, but as majority of you, you know, you all have this understanding or this conditioning that just because things can't be done our way, they cannot be done at all. You know?
Right.
So when someone achieves something by implying a different approach, it's surprising.
No,
I know you didn't
It's
mean
okay, she's
that.
not accusing you.
And I
didn't mean that,
no,
Urjita.
I'm trying to say, okay, so like, if I may, it's like, so for me, it just felt like you running. That is what it felt like. Ki, Arey, ye kaise kar diya? So, it wasn't like you performing stand-up, which
Of
I know
course.
you can do.
Thanks.
There is nothing great. There is
Yeah,
nothing like amazing. There is, your stand-up is amazing, but there is nothing unbelievable.
Validation, yes.
There is nothing unbelievable about that.
Wow,
so like that is
ouch.
the
Your stand-up is nice, but it's very ordinary.
Like,
Shweta.
like just to be clear over here,
Yeah.
it's not I'm not commenting on you.
I know.
I'm commenting on the
हाँ.
reaction, and this could be
Yeah.
anybody's reaction.
Right.
है ना?
Yeah.
So like that needs to eventually
Got
change
it.
and we come to it, obviously.
So two things. One is I think it makes a point that because Michelle is growing up in a privileged household, her parents have not been harsh with her. Like, you know, एक वो होता है ना राजा बेटी syndrome. कि अमीर घर के माँ बाप बच्चों को नहीं मारते हैं. So in a way, and also when Amitabh's character comes in, he calls her spoiled. "That spoiled little brat." Okay, then he kind of is like, I have to be harsh with
Yes,
her.
yes, yes.
And the second thing is, so there's been a lot of comparison of this film with a film called The Miracle Worker,
Yes.
which was based on Helen Keller
Keller's
and
life.
her teacher, Anne Sullivan.
Yeah.
So I went back and saw some portions of that movie to know, did they also treat it the same way? And it's almost exactly
Apparently,
the
the
same.
first half is the same.
Yeah, so Helen Keller's portrayal in that film is also somewhat similar, that she's wild and she's not treating her teacher with respect, and she's trying to hit her and everything. But in that film, and I checked out the 1962 version, the teacher is a lot more patient with the child.
Okay.
But Amitabh had to show his Amitabhness, so he's like, step into the light. So yeah, I want to ask about one particular line in the film where the teacher says she's disabled, she's not mentally retarded. Right? We all scoff at the word retarded now.
Yes, now. Yeah.
Isn't that something where you're pitting one disability against other? And is that a problematic line?
See, if it's pitting one disability against the other, it is a problematic line.
Right.
But I think, again, I hope I'm not sounding too liberal, and like, of course, I have also found flaws in the movie. But I think it meant in the context of communication,
Okay.
where, so the right term to use right now is intellectually disabled.
Okay.
So when someone is intellectually disabled, they might, depending on the disability, they might take time to understand what's being said or
Okay.
communicated.
Okay.
So when it was said in this context, it meant that she understands. She is capable of understanding. It's, let's say, the last 7 years of y'all not being able to communicate properly, that now she's in a place where it's difficult to communicate.
Correct.
But she has that capability, And of course, the use of the word retard in today's context,
Yeah.
back then also it was wrong, now also it's wrong
yeah,
only.
yeah.
But I didn't see it as pitting one disability
Okay.
Yeah.
against
Okay,
each
alright.
other.
No, I also didn't. As in, because I mentally
I mean,
retarded, the term is, of course,
Yeah,
like,
my
inside, yeah.
I'm coming from a place where it was like, if she was mentally retarded, would it have been okay for her to, like, would the rude behavior be justified? Right.
Still not, obviously.
Okay.
Regardless of like what your, I don't know, disability or lack of disability is, that's still not justified.
Okay. Okay, at this point, we take a short break. When we come back, we have a lot more stuff to talk about Black and portrayal of disability in general in Hindi cinema, Indian cinema, and abroad. We'll see you on the other side of this break. Hello, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Cock and Bull, Cyrus and Abbas, that's me, are joined by food writer and TV host Karen Anand. We spoke about Karen's food memories. Karen shared her thoughts on samosas that cost $7 and how food writing and TV shows have evolved. On Simplified, our hosts are joined by microbiologist Avranil Paul. They spoke about a whole bunch of things related to what happens inside our body, from viruses and bacteria to how vaccines work and so on. And on Paisa Vaisa, Anupam talks to Akshay Dhand, appointed actuary of Canara HSBC Life Insurance. They spoke about the importance of life insurance, practical steps to choose a good health cover, and a lot more. Folks, if you like our shows, spread the word. Tell your friends and don't forget to rate and review them wherever you're listening to them. Follow us on social media via IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You'll also find our shows on youtube.com/IVM Podcasts. So there's this one thing I want to talk about where in the film the father is opposed to Michelle being taught by the teacher and he asks him to leave. But then he only leaves, which was I thought was a little weird. And then
but for a moment, I thought that he's leaving them like forever.
Oh.
I don't know why I thought that he's leaving them forever.
Yeah, he does that good
And-
impression.
And also like, dude, I don't know what it is, but or maybe like I have seen this happen in similar movies, but like the moment I saw the father getting pissed at her, I was like, ये छोड़ के जाएगा.
Oh.
ये नहीं
Yes,
रुकेगा.
same.
ये या तो छोड़ के जाएगा या इनको घर से बाहर
It
निकाल
felt
देगा.
like he didn't like that child.
Yeah.
That just tells you about something about Indian fathers.
But also the stats, no, that
Yeah.
if anything is wrong with the child and if the mother is not ready to give up the child, the father gives up the wife.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. The portrayal of the father and the mother. Very, if I may say so, stereotypical portrayals where the mother is the loving, caring one.
She was so loving and caring. I was like, I'll cheat on my mom with her, man.
Same.
Just
Yes,
so,
yes, yes.
just so. I was like, man, I want to
too
be loved
kept
by
giving
her.
my mom the side eye throughout.
है ना?
Why aren't you so loving? हाँ, मैंने क्या बिगाड़ा? हाँ.
Just so nice and
yeah.
like her eyes are so beautiful. It's like
Yeah.
the world can do nothing wrong can happen in the
The
world.
perfect portrayal of a mother, I would say.
But
Of course, glorified one.
I was about to
Yeah.
come to that. The father at least has an arc where at 2 points in the beginning he's completely opposed to it. Then
Yes.
there's that point in the fountain where she says her first words and he feels happy.
Yeah.
And then right at the end during the graduation speech he's literally like, oh, that's my daughter. Whereas the mother stays pretty much the same throughout. There is some complexity there with the sister, with the younger sibling. But do you think, I mean, for a disabled person, especially the family around them, it's much more complex for them to deal with the situation?
Like,
Yeah, I think एक comparison हमारे पास है तारे ज़मीन पर का भाई.
Right.
तो तारे ज़मीन पर में दर्शील सफारी का भाई, like वो थोड़ा ऐसे kind of indifferent दिखाया है. Like he's shown helping him, but like not too much also. But like in this case, this one was like acting like a proper bitch की, oh, so should I use sign language to get your attention? वैसे कि मेरे को ऐसे screen से चमाट मारने का मन किया.
no, but so my parents decided that they will not have this complexity in my life. They're like, ठीक है, तो बाकी सब problems are deal कर, not this one. So I don't have a sibling. That's what I was coming at. But I know other disabled friends who have siblings and who have somewhat of this equation with their sibling, you know, because and it's not the same. Like what I mean to say is like for other friends of mine, although there is more attention given to the disabled person in the family, there is more expectation out of the non-disabled person.
Okay.
And then that is not fair
Okay,
to the disabled person. And they're like, oh my God, like, you know, they're like, you're caring for me, you're looking out for my needs, but then you don't want me to go out and earn money for you, or you don't want me to be married at a certain age.
Right.
And have like all those expectations, those milestones are for the non-disabled counterparts.
Right.
You know, yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Because उनके पास नॉन डिसेबल्ड किड्स को में भी लगता होगा कि मेरे अगर लाइफ में कोई प्रॉब्लम हो जाए, यू विल फील लाइक आई एम अ बर्डन ऑन यू कि मैं क्यों कुछ कर नहीं पा रही. यू विल फील लाइक कि तू क्यों नहीं कुछ कर पा रहा है. मे बी दैट्स, आई थिंक दैट्स व्हाई.
I got confused with the usage of tu over here. Like who is tu? Who feels like a burden?
द नॉन डिसेबल्ड चाइल्ड.
अच्छा.
अगर मतलब उनको ऐसा लगेगा कि आई नीड टू बी परफेक्ट, इफ आई एम नॉट देन यू विल.
But then I've also known siblings of friends who've been tired of that,
Yeah,
of wanting,
yeah.
I'm
wanting
sure,
to
yeah.
be in that role.
Yeah.
But talking about the father, you know, like I watched it again right now, and then my first reaction to him being happy at Michelle saying the word, I'm like, अच्छा अभी तुमको बड़ी खुशी हो रही है.
Exactly, yeah.
है ना?
So I thought that I get that this is a film and they have to wrap it up in a given amount of time, but that scene felt a little out of place because like so many things are happening at once.
Yes.
Amitabh is also realizing कि हाँ मैंने जो सिखा रहा था वो चल गया. The parents are also suddenly like, oh wow.
Yeah, but like I feel that over here, I think they've captured the complexity of being a parent really well.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not a parent, but obviously I've tried to understand my parents and I still haven't.
Right.
But I think when he doesn't... So when you mentioned spoiled brat, no?
Right.
That Devraj says that he's a spoiled brat. I think it's in the context of... the family not saying anything at all to a disabled person or disabled child. Like in my house, मुझे कोई कुछ काम नहीं बोलता. So in that context, I'm a spoiled child.
Right.
है ना? So I think, so first of all, he meant it in that context. You're a spoiled child. No one has taught you how to be obedient, number one. And number two, when Devraj is trying to, bring in some kind of, again, structure in her life, the father gets defensive and I think a little possessive, you know. How is someone doing that to my daughter?
Right.
You know, and how dare you know my daughter better than me? Which I think is the case with most parents also.
Yeah.
Forget parents. Like, and I think it's more in the case of parents of disabled children because you've literally brought up a child with so many complexities. So you're definitely going to have that response that how dare you know your child, my child better than me. I think that there's arrogance over there. And then when she says the first word, I think it's again capturing the complexity where in the beginning first they show that the father is embarrassed of the child, like, you know, wo maregi kisi ko, that knife scene or something of that sort. It's like parents themselves become victims of conditioning and societal norms. Like they want the child to have a certain kind of a life, but they're not able to give it, and they're not able to look at the child in that way. So they end up kind of discriminating. But when the child achieves something, they're obviously going to be happy, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, let's not.
तुम्हारी सारी जीत हमारी पर तुम्हारी सारी हार तुम्हारी. So
This is. I mean, but
Is this from Blood Money?
no. This is from Urjita Wani.
like had this. Whoa.
I just rhymed money with one. Hey God, are you listening? Yo, hey
Next
Bhagwan,
rapper in
सुन रहा है
town.
तू?
राइटिंग भी, कॉमेडी भी, रैपर भी, क्या
सब
मतलब
कुछ, हाँ.
सब कुछ करना है तुमको, हाँ?
But I've seen like a live example of this. My father's a dentist, and whenever in his clinic a mother would bring a child for the dental treatment. The moment the child sits on the dental chair, they would start crying. Okay, and my father at first would be like very nice, like कुछ नहीं, 2 minute का काम है ये वो, and then obviously after a point his temper would start showing up, and then he would ask the mother to leave the room, like नहीं आप जाओ. And almost in like 9 out of 10 cases, the moment the mother goes out, the child just starts behaving because now he's completely in an environment where he's got nobody to depend on, nobody to reach out to.
You take your parents for granted. Obviously.
Exactly, yeah.
That's a really nice example.
Then they get a lollipop at the end is a different thing. But that's what this reminded me of, because at multiple instances, Devraj asks the mother to leave the room and just leave them alone.
Yeah.
There's also that one moment where they treat it like where he's trying to, I think he's trying to ask her to use a spoon and the lights go out and it's almost played as like a horror scene where now the child is going around and he doesn't know where she is.
Yes.
So that was a little...
That dialogue की अंधेरा होता है तो आँखों का क्या काम?
Yeah.
Something on those lines. Yeah.
I think that scene was important because उसको perspective मिलना जरूरी था. So,
but then I was questioning कि this person has already worked with Disabilities.
I also
That's
thought
what,
of the same
yeah.
thing.
Like उसको अभी इतने late 3 साल के बाद.
yeah.
You know.
That
About
was the
time,
missing
uncle.
key, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mentioned the theatre actors because I think both Mahabanu Modi Kotwal, who plays Mrs. Nair, and Sharnaz seem very controlled and subdued in front of Amitabh, who's doing the larger-than-life performance there. So I think that was very interesting. I want to ask this one question. So I get that it's an Anglo-Indian family and they are portrayed as rich. But then I think in the later parts of the film, even when the film moves out a little outdoors, this place doesn't seem like India. Okay, it seems like it's a foreign country. It seems like he's made an English film in Hindi.
It seems like a Sanjay Leela Bhansali set.
But then my question then at large is then shouldn't you be portraying the kind of discrimination that a disabled person would face in India? You know what I'm saying? That you commit to that.
Which now brings us to the narrative of the film, right? Yeah. So I think they obviously wanted to portray her as someone who is strong,
Right.
and then someone who is inspiring.
Right.
But I see these two things very differently.
Okay.
You know, obviously to survive in an ecosystem like ours, and of course it was back then, you need strength to survive as a disabled person.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're obviously going to be strong, and that's a given. But then do you celebrate that strength, and how much do you celebrate that strength? You know, because...
I think it's okay. No, I mean, I don't
So I'll give you an example.
Can I finish?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry,
because... so when someone calls a disabled person inspiring, they call them for overcoming obstacles and challenges
Right.
and you know, being strong. But the point is those challenges should not exist in the first place.
Right.
You know?
Okay.
Like you take 2 minutes to come to the studio. I should also take 2 minutes to come to the studio, and that's how the infrastructure should support me as well.
Right.
You know?
Achha, okay, so like instead of addressing how the infrastructure is bad, instead you are saying, oh my God, Sweta, wow.
Yes.
Okay, that's...
We are putting the focus on the
Person.
on the person, which is okay to an extent. Again, it's good to celebrate the strength, but not glorify it. And I felt like when they've used the term namumkin so many times, no,
Right.
I understand that this was, first of all, we didn't have clarity as to which year or
Yeah,
which period
right.
this film is based in. Yeah. So what are they saying? So whenever they use the term namumkin, you know, I just kept questioning that of course it is going to be namamkin for her because the society doesn't
Yeah.
support her, or there are
Right.
no tools for her to,
Right.
get education in the most dignified manner.
There's just one scene, I think, where they slightly addressed it, where the college principal gives Devraj
The Braille
books,
Yes.
which implies that so far there was nothing which could help them. Now there is.
Which has captured the real essence of the, educational system in the country.
Yeah. I mean, how important do you think it is, and the film addresses this also, where Devraj wants Michelle to study in a quote-unquote regular college, and the principal himself is like, "Aise logon ke liye special colleges
I
hote hain."
loved that point, because when Devraj, he counter attacks, he's like, "Acha kya karegi wo? Basket
टोकरियाँ.
बनाएगी, बुनाई करेगी, ये करेगी, वो करेगी," which was true. Like, why do you have to? And which was, I think, if it was a real character based in that time period, I would have been very happy, because
Right.
then that person has foresight also, and like, you want, of course, I'm not saying that these jobs are not dignified, because they are, like, there are other people who are also doing that job, but why only restrict disabled people to those kind of jobs? Why not a regular accountant job to begin with, or lecturer? So I think that was, so the film has these moments where Devraj and Rani both fight for, disability to be to be accepted in a dignified manner,
Right.
and I like that. I'm happy it's not glorifying disability all throughout, but these real moments are there. For example, at the dance party where the principal sees Michelle for the first time, and he says that देखो एक इंसान जिसको देखते नहीं आता है, सुनते नहीं आता है, and he's like, hey, that's the girl, and then I like that. Like, I love the contrast over there, like there's sympathy and then there's empowerment.
Correct. Yeah.
I like that scene.
Nice.
A lot.
Yeah, that scene was very beautiful. Talking about scenes that are beautiful, I also like the scene where for the first time, like, she cracks a joke. And Amitabh, she says, wait, I'll just check what she says. She says, I'm fed up. I'm fed up. So he says, I'm fed up, and she also, like, mimics him, saying that I am also fed up with you. And then you initially think that she's just mimicking him, but then you see that slight smile on her face, and he also laughs, and we realize, no, she did that maybe on purpose.
Yes.
That was really nice. So I feel like that communication, like just that little communication they
The
showed.
bond is portrayed really well.
Well, let's get to the part where the film addresses desire, which is Michelle is part of, is it her sister's marriage?
Yeah.
And that's where she realizes that, like, probably for the first time so closely, that there is someone who is going to get married, and there is this whole sense of desire, and they're going to, at the wedding, the priest says, you may now kiss the bride. And she says, kissing her on the cheek, and Devraj says, no, on the mouth. And that's when she realizes, oh, that ye bhi ho sakta hai. And then she wants someone to kiss her because she realizes that may never happen with her. And then Devraj himself sort of certifies that, saying, yeah, that may never happen with her. And she says, Kate, why don't you kiss me? And then that happens, and then after that Devraj leaves from the I mean, talking about male characters leaving. But I like that. Hey, you brought it up, okay? I'm just
Talking about father figures leaving. मैं ऐसा बोल रही, मेरे डैड अच्छे, ठीक है, हम फैमिली मैन में ऐसे नहीं है.
But I like that the film addresses desire.
It.
And that is such a beautiful point, because this is something that a common friend of ours had told me, Ayushi Jagad, who was also there on the show.
Yes.
That very simple point. I know this might sound a bit weird, but then she said that while having sex or any sort of physical contact, people switch off the lights. And मैंने पूछा था, why is that? She's like, because sex is something you feel, no? Like physical pleasure is something you feel. You don't want to it is something that is to be felt. It is not to be seen or heard.
Right.
So and
I think people are conscious
I
about
was gonna
their
say
bodies
that.
and someone else's body also, because we
I wouldn't.
Yeah, that too.
I have
yeah.
my own body image issues. So.
Yeah, that too. But like also like so when I saw that scene, I realized ki, oh yeah, like I don't know if you guys remember the first time you felt something, but like this was when I was a teenager, and I remembered like some guy that I had a
it was
mild
that
crush on.
item song from Ghatak that Mamta Kulkarni does. Koi jaye to le aaye. I felt dil. Yeah, I felt something happening.
You don't know
there.
that. You
And
would
I was
know
like,
that. I
yeah,
thought,
please,
I
please
know-
put the lights off. I just
thought
want to
you
be.
know all
Just
these
look
kind
at
of
the
songs.
cameras and just say, what the fuck?
You asked. You remember the
Are
first
you-
time you felt something, and I'm telling you.
Oh God, no! I meant like a person's touch, like how you
Oh,
felt
that way.
differently. So like
Oh.
I had a crush in my college, and this was the first time I had a crush on someone. So
कॉलेज तक तेरे को किसी पे क्रश नहीं हुआ?
स्कूल का क्रश इज लाइक मुझे
Yeah.
लगता था कि मुझे कोई लड़के पसंद ही नहीं है, बट तो कॉलेज तो दिस सो आई रिमेम्बर ही वाज लाइक डायरेक्टिंग और समथिंग, एंड देन ही जस्ट लाइक पुट अ हैंड ऑन my shoulder, and he like
La,
did
la, la.
yeah, and I kid you not, my
Butterflies.
body just started shivering, and then like so when I saw that happening in Black, I was like, okay, I was immediately transported to that
Right.
memory.
But I would first want to know your response to her asking her teacher to give her that experience.
thoda weird, but also at the same time he's a confidant.
Yeah.
So and like he's her only friend, so and I think she just wanted to feel that.
I went through an
She-
entire range. Go ahead.
So she the thing is उसका अभी हम कैसे एक्सप्रेस करते हैं, हम एक तो बातों से एक्सप्रेस करते हैं, हम आंखों से देखते हैं, कानों से सुनते हैं, बट उसका पूरा फीलिंग, पूरा उसका साउंड, मूड, बॉडी,
right,
उसका
right,
फीलिंग
yeah,
ही
yeah.
है. So she is like कि वाटर अगर बोला तो वाटर देखता है, अगर किसिंग बोला तो किसिंग भी तो देखना है ना. So I think for her it works that way. So I didn't feel like.
But I just at this point I remembered way before this kissing scene is introduced. There's a scene where there's a monologue, and she mentions कि हमारा रिश्ता बदल रहा था, you know. So I am not sure if that's what it's indicative of.
Why are you getting uncomfortable? It's okay, man.
I mean, we saw that, but anyways, yeah.
okay.
It's okay.
Child, it's fine. It's fine.
Oedipal का male version क्या होता है? I don't know. So I went through an entire range where first when she says के will you kiss me? I thought ए क्या बोल रही है? ऐसा टीचर है तेरा, you know. But then instantly that point came to me.
yeah.
He's the only person who's she's been the most intimate with, not in the physical sense, but throughout most of her life, where she's shared every emotion with him because he's the quote unquote voice that she has. So of course if she wants to feel desire, he's the one she will. And also I think is we are feeling that because probably we are seeing him, the age difference, as someone who can't see. Maybe she doesn't sense
doesn't
what
sense
old
it.
and
Yes,
young
yes.
is to that
Yeah.
extent. So that's why she's like
Even like being a disabled person, even knowing that feeling of. So first of all, not back then, but now when I rewatch the movie, what came to my mind is why won't she experience this with someone?
Okay.
Because I mean, of course, even today, it's considered as, oh my God, pap.
Right.
If a disabled person thinks of dating a non-disabled person.
अच्छा, I thought he meant sex. I was like, yeah.
अरे हम वहाँ तक गए नहीं है बहन.
उर्जिता like,
Dating
हाँ,
तो कर
है
ले.
तो.
पहले कॉफी पी लूं उसके साथ में. ठीक है.
I was like, sex is considered pap, yeah. Like, you're disabled. Okay, yeah.
So it's like पहले कॉफी तो पी.
वो भाग जाता है उसके पहले. ठीक है.
You're lying, okay? I've heard stories.
Whoa.
Okay, Sweta ने stories बताए अपने, so I know you're lying, but okay, fine, go ahead.
देखो,
That
ये
will be
stories होती है.
that version of the podcast will be behind our paywall.
हाँ.
But yeah, so it's considered still very.
It's still considered taboo, you know, like especially in the arranged marriage market. Like I thought कि ठीक है, you know, मतलब like when I was in my 20s and when that arranged marriage thing was happening, I thought कि ठीक है, होता होगा. Not all non-disabled men, but some will be okay. It's a taboo apparently. So now
So
when I
for
watch,
Arranged
even-
marriage market में about 25 women is also taboo. I'm reaching that. अगले साल
चुप रहे.
2024 taboo.
you don't get to talk about when there are 230 plus people right in front of
Yeah.
you. Exactly.
Kids, go sit with my
Yes,
tree.
exactly.
No, but
No,
so even after you already cut down your expectations, saying कि obviously not every able-bodied
what I was
man will
coming
be
to
okay.
is that as a
and
watcher,
in your experience, even lesser number of men were okay with it.
but what I'm coming to that right now as a watcher, I'm like, why couldn't they or why I don't know. Like obviously this part is not. Now, first of all, very interestingly, how this entire marriage part or this companionship part is not addressed only in the movie. Which I find problematic not only over here, like generally in the discourse of disability. It's not addressed because like first of all, it's considered that oh my god, disabled है तो single ही रहेगा number one. Number two, I don't know if the parents would have thought for her in that movie, but I'm sure they could have found someone who is as disabled as her.
Yeah.
So this thing of, and what I feeling
why
weird about and bad about is that why wasn't she communicated that she can also experience it,
right?
Like how every non-disabled person has a milestone.
Correct.
Of course, there is no such milestone for us, which is like whatever bullshit. But it's just sad that this wasn't a part of her. I mean, of course, there were other challenges. Like वो बोलते हैं कि तुम्हारी life में इतने challenges are already. So why would you think about that? Like, I'm like, why not? I want more support in life. But so this question crossed my mind that why weren't they looking for a disabled alliance for her, number one.
But why only disabled alliance? Can be
because see, she's talking in the context of desirability being taboo. Okay, so obviously there is this established thought process that my life is challenging, or there are this XYZ difficulties and all of that, and I am perceived in a particular manner, and I don't fit. I don't conform to the norms of traditional woman or like a desirable woman. So then non-disabled boys is out of question only. I think that's a very internalized thing.
Of course.
So that was my first thought.
Okay.
And then about the kissing scene, I am still not convinced. No, even though I have been.
But the idea you're convinced with that she wanted
of course
to
I know
be
where
felt
she's coming from.
Your issue is with Devraj being the first person.
Devraj being the first person, but then I do understand that, like he was the only point of contact with the outside world.
Yeah.
So,
maybe it's a film thing because they never show us her teenage years, right? She's the kid and then suddenly she's an adult.
This.
Yeah.
But then my problem with movies and portrayal about these subjects is like it's just not spoken about. Like these things are not spoken about, and then it's again portrayed in a very stereotypical way कि अरे बिचारी इसको तो कभी experience मिलेगा ही नहीं.
So very quickly, the film Man, in the second half, Manisha Koirala loses her legs, and she's trying to hide from Amir Khan that she's lost her legs because she thinks he will not accept her. And then in the ending is like when Amir Khan accepts her, it's like अरे इतना महान आदमी
Oh my God.
इसने व्हीलचेयर पे बैठी हुई लड़की को एक्सेप्ट कर लिया. ओहो.
तो जब भी आमिर खान जब म्यूजिक चल रहा है, ठीक है, एंड देन फेरे लेने के लिए जैसे आमिर खान उठता है, the music stops because this guy has forgotten. Oh, she can't get up, dude. What are you doing?
God.
And then
getting married to
her. And then Amir also doesn't directly lift her up. नीचे बैठता. He takes his own sweet time. नीचे बैठता है, and then he lifts her up. Like after looking at her for like a good 5-10 seconds. I
to remember that scene where I haven't watched the movie, but that scene has become a reel now on Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a scene where the kids ask a question. अच्छा आपके तो पैर नहीं है, तो आप तो उठ नहीं पाओगे, तो आपसे तो कोई शादी भी नहीं करेगा.
That escalated quickly.
Like child, तो क्या पढ़ाई कर रहे?
But speaking of this movie Black, I read that उस साल उसने सबसे ज़्यादा फिल्म फेयर अवार्ड्स लिए थे, एंड वो रिकॉर्ड था. मतलब ब्लैक मूवी में जितने फिल्म फेयर अवार्ड्स लिए थे उससे ज़्यादा उसके बाद गली बॉय ने लिए थे. एंड आई एम लाइक ये सी द मूवीज हैव कनेक्शन. दोनों मूवीज में जो लीड कैरेक्टर बोलना सीख रहा है.
Okay.
I thought I was the one who was doing dark jokes over here.
Though I was bashing Gully Boy.
Yeah, of course. But I have a question. Why?
But I feel वो Gully Boy में भी अगर वो रणवीर सिंह का पूरा beginning वाला rap सुनती, उसको ब्रेल में obnoxious बुलाती.
What do you have against Gully Boy?
I don't know why I'm imagining Ranveer being this very धासु like blind person. मैं करेगा, अरे अब आज मैं करेगा, अपना टाइम आएगा टाइप्स. आज मैं graduation हो, that's it.
I had a question. Why do you think Devraj left after the case? I don't know.
I mean, of course, no. For him, it was ethically incorrect because ethics. है ना? Because he was torn. Basically, it was like my own ethics or happiness of the person whom I want to see happy. You know, like so he did it because of her.
Okay.
And then he couldn't probably face her, the irony of it. Sorry,
Okay.
but he couldn't then look in her eye and all of that.
Right.
So I think that's why he left.
Any other points you want to bring up, Urjita?
क्वेश्चन आंसर राउंड जो होता है मिशेल का इंटरव्यू जो होता है उसमें द प्रोफेसर आस्क कि इंडिया अगर इस तरफ है तो अमेरिका कौन सी दिशा में? लाइक ब्रो ये तो मेरे को भी नहीं पता तो क्या डिफिकल्ट सवाल पूछ रहा है ये पूछना माइटोकॉन्ड्रिया इज द पावर हाउस ऑफ व्हाट तो बताएंगे ना हम.
But you know that smirk on the face of one of the person on the panel. अच्छा इसको ये आंसर नहीं आता types, you know. Yeah, so I felt like
That's just every teacher in a Viva.
But then again, like as somebody who is probably like has more nuance over here, it felt very like it was the right portrayal of ableism.
Yeah.
Like, see, I told you she's not doing.
Yeah.
But it was nice, like these small moments were there, which I felt very happy seeing.
So
Even sorry to like, but then again just going to a different scene. That scene where he hands her the gift, which is a stick. You know, and she refuses to take it. Like, obviously, understand. Like, if someone asks me to use a wheelchair, I also have this response, not because of me, but because of how people will perceive me.
Yeah.
You know, and all of that.
Achha,
But-
also you perceived it that way.
Huh.
Oh, you know how I perceived it? I thought she immediately understood that if he gave her the stick, it means he won't be with her anymore.
So maybe it was my
No,
projection
I also had the same
Achha,
thought as
okay.
Achha,
Sweta.
okay.
Probably.
Ke, when you've taught me to be self-dependent so long, why are you giving me this
Acha.
one?
Yeah.
one.
Okay.
For me, it was both. Yeah, obviously. Huh. But
Did we just have three different perceptions of the same
ये
thing?
inkblot tester हो.
Cinema, power of cinema.
I
go ahead.
mean, my understanding came from my experiences, obviously.
Sure.
तेरा क्या एक्सपीरियंस है भाई अब्बास?
कि मैं सेल्फ डिपेंडेंट हुई नहीं मेरे को कोई देगा मैं बोलूँगा हाँ चलो ठीक
Good,
है
good.
but हाँ go ahead
Yeah. So I was saying that line where he mentions ki, of course I can't quote it properly, but where he mentions that this will not make you more dependent, it will make you independent. You know, you can go to places on your own. And I think that was such a very sweet, beautiful portrayal of disability aids and tools that we use, because a lot of times, you know, again, you know, it's just perceived as, oh my God, there's a disability tool. Oh my God, this person uses a wheelchair or uses a cane. But it actually makes it possible for us to like do what we want, you know, and be where we want to be.
Right.
So I love that moment in the film, you know, like that was the right. I'm like, well done, good job.
I also
There's
liked Rani Mukherjee's speech. It's not speech as in the the first day in the classroom when they were talking about dreams.
So
So वो जो बोलते हैं कि
yes.
dreams are
Disagrees,
not
yeah,
something
yeah.
that you see,
See.
something that your mind feels.
मेरा मन देखता है.
Yeah. So that was also very nice.
I like that.
Yeah.
Nice. There's a Easter egg there right after the scene where she gets the steak. They are outside and there's a theater in the background which is called Gaiety for some reason. I don't know why. But when she's walking along with the stick, there's a poster of Charlie Chaplin in the background. So
Oh,
to
yes, I
sort
noticed
of
this.
make a point that he also used the stick.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's also mute, as in.
Silent
yeah.
film.
Silent
yeah,
film,
yeah,
yeah.
Silent film.
Correct. So, Sweta, I want to ask you, from what you've described about this movie, this movie, I'm assuming for you was a fairly decent portrayal of a person with disabilities or the things that you want to say about being disabled?
Mm.
Basically, what I'm trying to get at is, what do you look for when you think of a good portrayal of a disabled character in film? And how do you...
I though found the tone a little over glorifying types.
Okay.
You know, that like again, as I mentioned, there's a difference between celebrating someone's strength and then glorifying it.
Right.
And then when it comes to portrayal of disability, again I think there are two versions. One is where you portray the reality of how the society is. And how it is incorporating disability and perceiving and all of that. And secondly is the ambition, you know, of how you want your subject to be seen in the society or to be treated.
Okay.
You know, so I think I would really want for everyone to come to a sweet spot where we show what the reality is, but then we don't again we don't put it forth as the end of everything.
Correct. Yeah.
Like you can portray a reality then and can also convey how you want things to be.
Right.
You know, I think this is in context of most movies that treat with subjects, you know, like this, where if it's Gully Boy or if it's some other minority subject and all of that, it's like even when I was watching your episode with Naveen, you know, and of course it's Dostana was very, very problematic,
Right.
of course, but you know, if my mom saw it, she wouldn't find something weird.
Correct.
Because that's how things are.
Yeah.
But my problem is glorification of the wrong things. You know, so I think we need to come to a sweet spot where we show the reality but also mention that it's supposed to change.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any examples that stand out to you that of films that have portrayed disability well, especially in the Indian context?
I haven't watched, it was on my watch list, I haven't watched Spurts.
Okay.
But I think Margarita with a Straw,
Okay.
although as a film there are multiple flaws because there are multiple storylines and all of that wahan pe. But I think it was a very real portrayal of how a 20-something-year-old disabled girl is,
Right.
you know, or who I was or who my friend was, you know, where I mean, of course the intensity differs, but we were also curious. We
Yeah.
also want to explore, you know, we had other ways of doing it. Like, of course it wasn't the same thing, but like it showed us as people having desires. And I remember there was this one scene, remembered very vaguely, where there's this competition and she's of course with the guy who she likes, and there's the song, and then I think she wrote the song last minute and they gave her the prize and mentioned that she implies that she's getting the prize because she's disabled.
Right.
And,
Oh,
and she's like,
yeah.
fuck you. You know, I love that. You know, and because that's I think the perfect sweet spot where it's honest portrayal, but then also the protagonist is standing up for herself and saying
Yeah.
ki nahi chahiye.
And you're also showing why this is wrong.
Showing why this is wrong. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Which brings me to another question. There's this whole debate going on, at least in Hollywood, where nowadays, if an able-bodied person takes up a role that is that is supposed to portray a disabled person, there's always a demand that why not let a disabled actor do that?
Absolutely.
Now, I get that because of the way things are, there aren't enough disabled actors who've made enough of an impact that you can just cast someone there. But where do you... And the other argument is कि भाई वो तो acting है ना, अगर कोई normal bodied person अगर disabled बना है वही तो है acting. So where do you stand on that argument?
I am in for having disabled people play the roles of disabled people, because of course it brings in more authenticity.
Right.
You know, like I mean, not taking away from the people who've played disabled characters. They're all right in their own way, but of course, like, so just to give you a small example, now one of our friends was making this short film, and the girl was disabled, and I they had taken my crutches or something of that sort, and to show her like I wear a leg brace, and for her they had done they'd added some crepe bandage and all of that, and another friend of mine happened to go to the set, and he was like, "Arey, but she wasn't even walking like you. How am I going to believe, like, because like even in your audience you can't assume that people don't know how a disabled person functions."
Right.
Like if my friends who've like hung out with me and they watch something like that, they're not going to believe it. So like one is that, like, believability of the role, and secondly, like earlier again there were less tools to support disabled people. There were less opportunities. Things have changed now. You know, there are disabled people who are actors, you know.
Yes.
So like one is to matlab it's absolutely okay to get a non-actor and train them, like why not? And secondly, there are actors, please again work with them,
Right.
because again someone like I have done my part of understanding things, you know, but someone who's not exposed to media or not exposed to some things, they will, when they don't see authentic representation, they will not think that something is possible for them.
They'll believe what they see.
They will be like, okay, I cannot do this, you know, fine, so I will not think of becoming an actor. That same thing of a teenager watching Miss India or Miss World.
Right.
Like, I also need to see a disabled woman playing roles. So then I know that this is also doable. Like, why take away that one thing?
I think they had a disabled actor portraying a disabled character in this Netflix show with Ranvijay Singh and Mithila Palkar set in a college campus.
Not Mithila Palkar, Prajakta Kohli.
Prajakta Kohli.
It wasn't.
It wasn't.
Taruk Rana, he's not a disabled person.
Oh, he's not?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm wrong.
But it's a very authentic representation though. And so one of my college friends was the writer in the first season.
Okay.
And I reached out to him. And I really loved the portrayal of disability over there, because you actually don't like him.
They make him an
you
asshole.
You want to feel sympathy for him, but they turn him into an asshole, which is like so. Like it was for me, it was cool.
Yeah.
Because you want
कि
to
वो
portray
shade भी तो
real
दिखाओ,
emotions,
हाँ,
right?
हाँ.
So
Yeah. Like that is his character, that he's a mean guy, not that he's a disabled
Yeah,
guy.
Correct.
was
That doesn't
nice.
define his entire
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some films that I like, you can tell me whether you think they were good portrayals or not. You said you've not seen Sparsh. I have seen Sparsh. I think it's a very authentic representation. Nasiruddin Shah plays a blind man in that film. There's Iqbal, which I really like.
I like Iqbal too, yeah.
There's Koshish, where Jaya Bhadri and Sanjeev Kumar play deaf and mute, but the child that they have can speak and hear.
Yes,
So it's pretty much about the parents and how the parents deal with raising someone who's not disabled and how the child reacts to that. That's also
I have friends who had that
wonderful
experience.
film.
Oh,
Yes,
really?
yes. Yeah.
Like ये मैंने India's Got Talent में एक बहुत पुराना एपिसोड था, उसमें देखा था कि so this guy, उसके जो dad है, he's deaf and mute, but he can dance and he can act. So and his mom is also, I'm not sure, but she was also disabled. So he was like the abled child of disabled parents, and just like I just remember he was just, the whole thing was so beautiful because like वो dad आए थे in fact audition के लिए, not even the guy. So the dad had this whole dance routine, had this acting routine, and he was just so nice in it, and I think he even cleared like 2-3 rounds. But even then like the guy was explaining his journey of just being with these
I feel वो तो किया होगा for TRPs and all.
अरे यार
श्वेता जैसा पूरा नीचे वो just sucked all the juice out of it. अरे वो टीवी वाले.
ये TRP के लिए क्या किया होगा? Did he pretend to be able?
No, but they're like, अच्छा, disabled parents, bring them on. You know.
अच्छा okay वैसे
Okay, of course. Like they have juiced the story out of it. Yeah.
But no, the guy was also really talented. Yeah.
Do you think Burfi was a good portrayal of disability?
I didn't like it personally.
Okay.
Reason being, he was too happy. For Priyanka Chopra.
He wasn't.
Of course.
He
Like,
was
there
also
two
disabled,
people,
but yeah.
But like number one, Burfi himself, like he was way too happy. I'm like, ये convincing नहीं है. I'm like, even when his father has died, he's just moved on. Like I mean,
okay,
like, and when I think of it, it can be men not being able to process emotions, but show something.
No,
over
it's not that deep.
there.
You're a we just leave when we don't like things.
But Priyanka Chopra, again, like from whatever I have known from my other disabled friends, wasn't a very authentic representation. But again, she's done a great job, of course. But we would have preferred someone who's actually had that health condition and then like been there.
You're a Hrithik fan, right?
Yes.
कोई मिल गया?
Not way too dumb.
Quoting Karunesh Talwar's stand-up video. Bollywood से जब हमने एलियन मांगा तो उन्होंने हमें क्या दिया? एक छोटा नीला खजूर.
Anything else you want to add, Urjita?
But the Jadoo, the actor who played Jadoo, as in the suit, he's actually like what do you call it? He's a short person. So and I was just sad that उसको कहीं पे कोई mention नहीं. The way we also are, like our generation found out about him was through memes. This is, believe it or not, like come on, this is a credit. If your actor credit comes under the section of believe it or not, then you're not crediting the actor enough. I feel he should have been there. Yaar, at least supporting role में उसका डालना चाहिए था. He was just treated as a prop. That I feel, if you have to talk about disability in the movie. Yeah,
that's what I said. There aren't. I mean, when you do incorporate and employ disabled actors like that, then you don't mention them. So at least make sure that work is understood and well known.
And there's Guzarish.
Right.
talking about Hrithik Roshan. I think like for him, he turned disabled in the storyline, of course. So there were.
I haven't seen Guzarish. So
Oh, you haven't seen?
No.
So it's basically a magician who has an accident and then becomes like a wheelchair user.
Right.
He loses everything neck downwards, all control. Huh.
Okay.
So again, decent portrayal only.
Okay.
I would say, but I think I like in the context of the storyline, although so it basically talks about euthanasia, right? And like so, can I share a story over like short
Sure.
story? Huh. So I was actually doing this fellowship, and there were other disabled people like me and we had this one assignment where we had to review movies on disability. Okay, and I had gotten Guzarish, and I am all in. Like I hate the word positive.
Okay.
I will turn you into a disabled person.
Please meet stand-up comedian Sweta Mantrii.
Yes. I will break your leg and give you my old crutches. Okay. So I hate the word positive and positivity. So when I watched Guzarish, I really liked it because it was a very honest portrayal of how a person was feeling about his life in the context of the accident and disability, all of that, which is fair. But what I didn't realize and what the professors over there brought to my notice, it's like although it's a very authentic representation of disability and of how someone would feel, especially, I mean, we have to consider that he was not disabled before, which is why he felt like, oh my God.
Right, yeah.
And that's the whole point, that why is disability so bad that someone wants to die? Like someone would not live only, like, and he lived like in a, like, of course he was not earning money in the movie. I mean, of course, through his radio podcast, whatever.
Podcast?
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry,
No,
this radio
podcasters
show.
don't make money. Yeah.
We'll see. I'll ask you that. But he was shown to like not be that rich by the end of everything that had happened, but he was still choosing to not live with all of that, and that was the entire conversation, debate around the movie, that it's fair to have those emotions,
Right.
but why are we portraying disability as so bad?
Correct. Yeah.
But then again, for me as a viewer, as a disabled viewer, I'm like, that's okay, but I also don't want to be inspiration zoned also.
Got it. But you know what my blood group is, Sweta? It's B positive.
Sweta,
Friendship with Abbas is cancelled.
Sweta, you're HIV not negative.
Wow. Okay then.
So I had this very lame joke that I have been like when I got COVID, I'm like for the first time in my life. I'm
You're positive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to quickly mention the film is shot by Ravi K. Chandran, who's a very celebrated cinematographer. The music is done by two composers. Can you name them, Urjita? None of them are famous, but one of them did music for another Sanjay Bhansali film. No.
No.
So the background, the one song that the film has, which was not even in the film, but it was released separately, was composed by Monty Sharma, who did Savaria as well.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yep, and the score was done by a composer called Michael Dana, who is a foreign composer. So he,
Arey, apna Michael.
Michelle.
Apna Michael. Dude, he spells his name as Mychael. Michael.
Michael.
So yeah.
Michael.
The film won a bunch.
Somebody is so optimistic about the future. It's Michael, my Aj, my Parso also.
Michael.
Yeah, the film won 13 awards at the Filmfare Award. Acting went to Rani Mukherjee and Amitabh Bachchan, and it won a host of a lot of other awards, and was on the list of a lot of best of 2005 films.
Wow.
So,
But also
yeah.
at the same time, I would like to point out that when we talk about acting, okay, especially early 2000s or mid 2000s ki movie mein, so
Yeah.
people immediately go to Chakte India. People think of Three Idiots. Thoda sa baad mein aayi thi, but yeah, around the same time. But like black ka mention utna nahi hota hai. Like even though it's
Wasn't
there in the pop culture.
mainstream cinema.
Yeah, black, even the pop culture, black first चीज तुमको क्या याद आती है? गोलमाल में
गोलमाल,
black क्या खेल रहा है? That That's the only like मतलब popular pop culture जो movement है उसका. But ऐसे like when it comes to acting, people, I'm saying this like as a woman also because people keep talking about Shah Rukh Khan क्या मस्त acting करता है. But like when it comes to Rani Mukherjee, Aishwarya Rai, like all these actresses, तो उन्होंने भी कड़क performances दिए हैं यार.
Sure,
But फिर भी like you were still like okay, Rani Mukherjee very beautiful. It's just
So I think this movie, again, like I said, I preferred the child portrayal of Michelle, Aisha Kapoor's portrayal.
Why?
Because I don't know, in some places, especially like when Amitabh is like walking her down the aisle as a bridesmaid in the marriage scene. In some scene, it seems like she's just deliberately overdoing the fact to draw attention to the fact. Look at me, I'm blind.
Was it about her walking? Like
Not
just
the
or is
walking.
it just the eyes? Because Aisha Kapoor, her eyes were constantly upar and Rani Mukherjee ki niche.
I think it is to do with the facial expressions because I didn't quite get the walking was not a problem for me. And Amitabh Bachchan also, I mean, all respect to Amit sir, but like I mentioned in our Love Aajkal episode where there's a Hindi film acting कि वो overacting भी कर रहा है but it's affecting me. So yeah, I mean.
But I think that's a very Sanjay Leela Bhansali element.
Sure, that
like,
too. Yeah.
Because he wants everything to be
Subtlety,
grand.
not the strongest suit of Sanjay Leela Bhansali. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. Rani Mukherjee and Amitabh's acting, I really liked in the movie.
It's
wasn't
not bad.
Like,
so I have to say, I was expecting the film to be completely hammy and overacting. It was not that. I liked it by and large. But we'll get to the rewatchability scale. But before that, I forgot to mention the sets of the film caught fire, which blew the budget of the film to a large extent. And jab set banane ke baad, when they went back to it, Sanjay Leela Bhansali was so obsessed with getting exactly everything as it was that it delayed the film further because he said continuity में कुछ problem नहीं आना चाहिए. अगर एक बार जो ऑफिस बताया फिर से जब बताओ तो सब चीज़ उधर ही होनी चाहिए जहाँ पे पहली बार थी. So but this film was actually a hit. It did well. It got critical acclaim. It was a success at the box office also. But yeah, I just feel like we don't talk about it as often as some other SLB films. But let's get to the rewatchability scale. So Sweta, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being it was a product of its time and nothing has aged well, 10 being every time you watch it, you get something new out of it, where would you place Black? How much would you score it?
I think I will not be able to give a neutral response to this.
Okay.
Obviously, because I would want to watch it again from the point of view of how disability is portrayed and what can be done better in the coming movie. So I will watch it like on a 7, like I would rate it 7 to 8.
Okay.
Like,
pick one. 7 or 8.
Oh, 7.5.
Clever. Urjita, for you?
I think it was 8.
8?
I really liked it. So
मुझको ही बनाओ asshole, huh? So for me.
For
No,
me,
yeah.
I think,
For
sorry
me.
to interrupt,
Yeah, go ahead.
But for someone who the subject doesn't matter a lot, yeah, I don't think the watchability will be. It's like one time good, feel good watch हो गया type, है ना?
ये feel good है.
हाँ, मतलब it's like
feel good movie कैसे हुई है श्वेता?
Like it gives you all those emotions, no? Like
There's a reason she doesn't like the word positivity, okay?
feel बोलना फिर feel good क्या है?
For me, it's a 6 on 10. I think it's a
it.
good film.
I knew it.
I don't know, man. Sanjay Leela Bhansali just doesn't hit. Vibes don't come.
तुमको ना हिंदी movies के actors से ही problem है.
Arey, this is the most English-made Hindi
you
movie.
just have a problem with Hindi film acting. I'm convinced.
But yeah, thank you so much, Sweta,
Thank you
for
so
taking
much.
time out and doing this with us.
It's my pleasure. Really enjoyed.
Before we wrap up, anything you want to plug? Where can people follow you on social media? Anything you want to say to the people watching and listening?
You can follow me at I Mad Mantrii on Instagram. Facebook तो कोई use नहीं करता है आजकल. And Twitter. वो मैं use नहीं करती.
Good.
Wow.
And
Great timing हो जाता.
source of positivity. That's
Yeah.
YouTube channel, anything?
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet, okay.
But हाँ, Instagram follow करो सब, you'll get to know everything about
Oh,
me.
you're there only on one platform. Oh, to be in your
Shweta
shoes.
only does corporate shows. If you're a corporate watching,
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
she'll come and
thank
do
you,
a show for
Abbas.
you,
Yeah,
and she'll charge you a shitload of money for that. No, she doesn't. Oh yeah, she does.
What else would I want to plug in is that
Charger.
Okay. Guys, Urjita is very excited today. Why we will come to that. But yeah, anything else you want people to read or get access to understand disability better?
Read के लिए तो मतलब there is a lot of material, but I think I will not say all of that. I will just say that interact with more disabled people.
Got it.
Don't shy away, you know, and like be open to what they have to say, because a lot of times what happens with me is when I am talking about my, like, I am a very vulnerable person. I am very emotional, and of course I hate the word positivity. So I am like a raita, फैला हुआ all over. ठीक है. And when I am talking about stuff, people are like, "Arey, don't know, but oh my God, look at what you've achieved. You've come so far. Oh my God, you can climb steps. Go for it, you know." And I'm like, "Nahi, but this also comes with that,
Right.
you know." What I want to like quickly come to is that when a non-disabled person is going to tell a disabled person's story, it's obviously not going to be very authentic.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it will either be sympathy or inspiration, like two ends of the spectrum. But when you pass on the mic to a disabled person, they will tell you exactly how they want to be perceived, you know, and they will tell you exactly what are the range of emotions that they feel. Like, just to give you an example, one of my friends mentioned that she has hobbies, and this auntie was like, "Acha, आपके hobbies भी होता है?" So disabled people. Yeah, my hobby will now be killing people who say that. But yes, we have real emotions, so please just listen to them. That's all.
Got it.
Such a weird thing to say. आपके हॉबीज भी होते
अच्छा,
सॉरी
आप रोने के अलावा भी कुछ करते हो? अच्छा,
आंटी रोना भी हॉबी
मेरे लिए तो है भाई.
Okay, we'll get to why Urjita is so excited today. So we are recording this on the 15th of May, and as we speak today, Urjita's first stand-up clip has dropped.
Yay!
And this episode will probably air some 3 to 4 weeks from now, probably later. So Urjita, do you think you've crossed 1 million views by now?
आई डोंट नो मैन. मैं तो यार ऐसा सोच रही थी कि यार 400 व्यूज तो क्रॉस हो जाएगा ना. आई वो मैं इतना बेयर मिनिमम एक्सपेक्टेशन, बट नो, आई वुड जेन्युइनली एक्सपेक्ट कि यार 1 मिलियन हो जाए.
Yeah.
तो बट या आई वुड वांट इट ऑनेस्टली टू क्रॉस लाइक 1 मिलियन.
So humble, oh my God.
Yeah.
Nice.
मुझे बड़ा पसंद आ जाएगा दोस्तों अगर आप हमारा छोटा सा एक वीडियो देखेंगे. पेशकश है आपके लिए लाए, फ्रेश पेशकश है, बड़े सालों की मैंने तो देख लीजिए. अच्छा लगा तो वेरी गुड, नहीं अच्छा लगा तो कोई बात नहीं, हम वापस ट्राई करेंगे, हम आते रहेंगे आपकी जिंदगी में कभी ना कभी. बट देखिए दोस्तों, मजा आ जाएगा. एक कमेंट डाल दीजिए गरम करारा #Army अगर आप उधर से जा रहे
Do
हैं
you
तो.
comments-
hate it when someone who's younger to you is that
I know,
funny?
yeah.
Yeah.
Very,
Yeah,
very
very
irritating.
much.
ए अगवैश.
Ako bhai.
But
No,
there
no,
are
I am not
already
praising, I am
comments.
full jealous and all right now.
There are already comments in the video saying, "Oh, this will definitely age well" and all that.
Yeah.
So in case you
Has
haven't
aged well.
watched it, or if you're listening to this and haven't watched it, link is in the bio. In the previous episodes also we've put it. So
Now
dekho.
it's okay.
So we'll wrap up at this point. You can follow me on social media as well. My Twitter handle is @AbbasMomin and AbbasMomin88 on Instagram. One final time, please subscribe to IVM Pop. If you're listening to us on audio platform, subscribe to the audio podcast feed. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Urjita is doing a weird dance, so share this dance with someone who you think will enjoy this. Press the like button. Check out the other shows on this feed. There's Just a Filmy Game Show and Pop Rap, which also have some really great guests, so check them out. And yeah, with that, we'll take your leave. We'll see you next week with a new film and a new guest. Till then, bye-bye.